Tonight, the Energy Minister confirms several fuel shipments to Australia have been cancelled due to the war in the Middle East. Good evening, I'm Jennett, with you from Ngunnawal country and acknowledging others with connection to the lands of the ACT. This is ABC News. Also tonight, Donald Trump gives a 48-hour deadline to reopen the Strait of Hormuz as US and Israeli attacks on Iran continue. Labor easily wins the South Australian election as One Nation surges past the Liberals. Disappointment as the Matildas fall short against Japan in the Asian Cup final. And up and away on the final day of this year's Balloon Spectacular. The Energy Minister has warned there could be bumps in Australia's fuel supplies, revealing a handful of shipments have already been cancelled or deferred because of the war in the Middle East. As the conflict enters its fourth week, the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, causing a massive disruption to the global oil trade and sending petrol and diesel prices soaring. Here's our National Affairs correspondent, Jane Norman.
Almost all of Australia's fuel comes from Asian refineries like this one. Petrol, diesel and jet fuel shipped in vast volumes to Australian shores.
We get on average around 81 boats a month delivering fuel to Australia. We're aware of 6 boats that have been cancelled out of that 81 on average.
Those shipments, according to the Minister, have largely been replaced as oil giants scramble to fill their contracts. For the first time, fuel from Texas and Louisiana is on its way to Australia. Hundreds of thousands of barrels on board the Largo Eagle and Nord Ventura, making the long journey from the Gulf of Mexico through the Panama Strait and into Exxon's East Coast terminals.
We have some trade with the United States, but to pluck it from Texas or Louisiana is unusual. That's not going to be a cheap form of supply.
Fuel shipments secure until mid-April, but the longer this conflict drags on, the more vulnerable Australia becomes. There are currently 38 days worth of petrol and 30 days of diesel and jet fuel in the national reserves. Restrictions not on the table yet.
Maybe when you were a kid, David, in the 80s in Sydney, I remember petrol rationing was done by state governments. The state governments do have powers there.
What we need now is a government that keeps all options on the table to keep the fuel tanks of Australians, and especially Australian trucks and tractors, full.
Supplies still too low in some regional areas, but it's the doubling of diesel costs companies are struggling to absorb. The government enters this final sitting fortnight before the budget, confronting an ever gloomier economic outlook. But there is a bright spot. European Union leaders are in Canberra this week, expected to sign a free trade deal 8 years in the making, and one that could add up to $10 billion a year to the Australian economy. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
Donald Trump has issued Tehran an ultimatum: open the Strait of Hormuz or the US will bomb all of Iran's power plants. Iran's control of the vital maritime corridor has formed a crucial leverage point over the US and its allies throughout the war, and it's taken another dangerous turn as both sides' nuclear facilities come under attack.
An angry Iran strikes the southeastern Israeli city of Dimona, home to a facility believed to house Israel's nuclear arsenal. Iranian state media says it's retaliating against a strike on its Natanz nuclear enrichment facility, reporting there had been no radioactive leaks. Then another attack in nearby Arad. More than 100 people were injured in both strikes. The military says its air defence systems were working, but failed to intercept the missiles.
Enter safe rooms, go into shelters. That's the best way to survive an incident like this when, unfortunately, the interceptions do not succeed.
As the war grinds on into its fourth week, Donald Trump is warning if Iran doesn't fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours, the US will hit and obliterate their various power plants. Iran has effectively closed the strait after several vessels were attacked by its forces, causing many to avoid shipping out of fear.
But Tehran's also willing to hit beyond the Gulf. It's fired 2 ballistic missiles at a joint UK-US military base on the island of Diego Garcia, nearly 4,000 kilometres away. Both were unsuccessful, but it shows Iran's firepower can reach further than previously thought.
These missiles are not intended to strike Israel. Their range reaches European capitals.
Iranian state media says the death toll there has surpassed 1,500. For days now, Halil and Hamid Mirza Hosseini have been searching for their brother in the rubble of his Tehran butcher shop.
I hope, God willing, we find him safe. We just pray he's only injured and in the hospital, because there's no trace of him here.
Holding out hope while there's no end in sight. Catherine Diss, ABC News, Jerusalem.
Labor has secured an historic win in South Australia, but the biggest story to emerge on election night is the resurgence of One Nation. It's had its most successful election in almost 30 years, winning at least one lower house seat. That's prompting some soul-searching for the major parties, particularly the Liberals, who are now facing an existential threat. Political reporter Stephanie Richards has more.
It's Labor's biggest win ever in SA.
I am fortunate enough to be able to lead one of the most disciplined, united political parties in the history of our federation.
Premier Peter Malinauskas has just increased an already sizable majority. But this election has thrown up a curveball.
I am leaving tomorrow to go to Canberra to continue my duties. But guess what, mate? I'm leaving you some landmines. They're called One Nation Members of Parliament.
On current counts, One Nation has secured more than 20% of the vote, well ahead of the Liberals' 18. Multiple electorates are yet to be called, but One Nation has secured at least one lower house seat. It's a huge moment for them and a disaster for the Liberal Party. The way forward, a tussle between moderates and Conservatives.
This nonsense that by leaning to the left we'll capture seats that we don't have has been proven wrong more times than I've had hot dinners.
You don't beat a party by becoming a party.
The SA Premier's been celebrating with some newly minted MPs, but his party's lost votes to One Nation too, and he has this warning for colleagues interstate.
If you think there is still such a thing as safe seats, you are deluding yourself.
The major parties didn't have a strong focus on One Nation this campaign, leaving their attacks to the final days. This result is a warning shot for other states and National Party leaders.
Hi, how are you? At a multicultural event in Melbourne, the Prime Minister warned against anti-immigration sentiments.
We need to be vigilant. There are some, including some in political life, want to turn back the clock to an Australia that is no longer who we are.
For Pauline Hanson, it's the best result for her party since 1998, when 11 MPs were elected to Queensland's Parliament.
If you're from Victoria, you're watching this, we're coming to support you down there. Stand candidates.
Her sights are already set on the next campaign. Stephanie Richards, ABC News.
One Nation's impact on the vote in South Australia was enormous, and it'll have implications federally for the coalition too. Here's our national political lead, David Spears.
There were some unique factors in South Australia, most notably years of Liberal Party turmoil that created a perfect storm of opportunity for One Nation. But this result cannot be ignored by the major parties across the country. More than 1/5 of voters have lodged a protest, fed up with the status quo. The One Nation votes came mainly from the Liberal Party, but even with a huge win, Premier Peter Malinauskas acknowledges some of One Nation's support came from Labor in the outer suburbs too. For the Liberal Party, the result could have been worse. It's not a complete wipeout, but it's still a humiliation. At a national level, there's still uncertainty over how to deal with this threat. Copy more of One Nation's ideas or reject them more forcefully. Preference Pauline Hanson or not. The federal by-election in Susan Lee's old seat of Farrer is now just 7 weeks away. Not much time for Angus Taylor to come up with some answers. An emboldened One Nation has the coalition in its sights.
David Spears there. Well, emergency services and an army of volunteers across the Northern Territory's top end are pushing through their 7th high-risk weather event this wet season. Tropical Cyclone Narelle battered the Territory's eastern coastline as a Category 3 storm early this morning, with coastal residents escaping its full force. The weather system is now tracking above already saturated communities, including Katherine, with major flooding likely across the top end.
Hitting the Northern Territory's remote coast in the early hours of Sunday, Cyclone Narelle leaving behind fallen trees and power lines in some coastal communities, but no major damage or injuries.
We acknowledge that we are not out of the woods. Our attention now will be on the potential for major flooding in communities.
As the Category 3 system weakened and tracked west as a tropical low, inland communities woke to some intense weather.
Good morning, Bullman. I'm at the school, and as you can see, it's pretty wet and windy here.
Already saturated river catchments across the top end once again preparing for major flooding.
We're very likely to see totals in excess of 200 millimetres near the centre of the system.
West in Katherine, it was a race against time to flood-proof homes, businesses and schools.
We are now expecting in Katherine for there to be even larger levels of flooding than we saw a fortnight ago.
More than 10,000 sandbags have been delivered across town. The National Critical Care and Trauma Response Team deployed from Darwin, working overnight to stand up a field hospital in the nick of time.
This emergency facility has everything from maternity, acute care, resuscitation and radiology. It's the largest scale operation AUSMAT has ever deployed in Australia.
For the second time this month, residents forced to stock up in case they become isolated.
How are people feeling out in your community?
I'm a bit worried, yeah.
Shrug your shoulders and hack it.
Are you nervous about the flooding?
Oh yeah, I couldn't sleep last night.
Another sleepless night for many as they wait to see what morning brings. Olivana Lathouris, ABC News, Katherine.
Robert Mueller, the special counsel in charge of investigating Russia's interference in the 2016 US presidential election campaign, has died aged 81. A former FBI director appointed by George W. Bush, Robert Mueller rose to fame as the head of the probe looking into Donald Trump. His 22-month investigation found that Russia had interfered in the election, but he didn't have enough evidence of a criminal conspiracy to charge the president. In a post on social media, Donald Trump says he's glad he's dead. Mr. Mueller had Parkinson's disease. The sprawling conflict in the Middle East is causing chaos on markets across the globe, but one country which positioned itself ahead of the oil curve could stand to benefit the most, as Alan Kohler explains.
Iran's biggest oil customer is China. It bought between 80 and 90% of Iran's output in 2025. In fact, some analysts are suggesting that part of the reason the United States attacked Iran on February the 28th was to damage China. Not the main reason, of course, but a nice side effect. And there's no doubt it's hurting. Now, to preserve its supplies, China has had to ban exports of diesel and gasoline, which totaled 2.7 million tonnes just in February. So yes, China is vulnerable. And when China sneezes, Australia catches a cold. But it's not that simple. For a start, China has built a petroleum reserve of 1.2 billion barrels of oil, 115 days worth, so they can last 3 times as long as Australia, for example. More importantly, the war in Iran could be playing right into China's hands. For 30 years, China has been furiously electrifying its economy to reduce its reliance on oil and improve energy security. It now gets more than 30% of its primary energy from electricity, compared with 20% in the US, Europe and the rest of the OECD. The rest of the world will probably now step up efforts to get off oil, having been given yet another wake-up call about its unreliability. And who are they going to turn to? Why, China. The People's Republic completely dominates the manufacture of renewable energy equipment. For the simple reason the government made sure it invested more than anyone else, much more. And as the world's drivers now turn more to electric vehicles because they're sick of queuing at petrol stations and paying $2.50 a litre or more, China stands ready to sell them some. So, if Donald Trump really is thinking the attacks on Iran will give China a black eye and hold them back somehow, it's more likely to be a bit of short-term pain and a lot of long-term gain.
Doctors warn the growing injury count from the use of e-bikes and e-scooters has led to a paediatric health crisis. The surge in e-device use has led to more hospitalisations and fatalities, especially amongst children. It's prompted Queensland to propose the country's strictest controls on e-devices, and other states are watching closely to see whether the move brings down the injury toll. Lucy Loram has tonight's special report.
They've transformed the urban landscape. The surge in popularity of e-bikes and scooters, especially amongst kids, is creating a new hazard on footpaths and roads across the country, and the consequences can be deadly.
Just an innocent boy coming home from school. You don't think that's going to happen. He was on a footpath.
A head-on e-bike collision shattered Chloe Whedon's world.
Oh, Zeke, yeah, amazing little boy. Very funny. God, he was funny. Very kind-hearted. I'm going to cry already. Yeah, we just miss him really a lot.
Her 8-year-old son was killed last October when a 15-year-old police say was riding a high-powered e-bike allegedly crashed into Zeke, who was also on an e-bike.
It's the hardest thing anyone has to go through, and just taking every day, and yeah, trying to get used to this new reality that we've got now.
There's no formal data on the number of deaths across Australia, but in Queensland alone, a staggering 14 people died in e-device accidents last year. Just this month, a 16-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl were killed. Hospitals have seen an explosion in e-bikes and e-scooter injuries, with children accounting for a quarter of all those presenting at emergency departments.
The speed at which they're going just doesn't allow them enough time to control themselves, and the natural tendency is to hold on to that handle, and so you end up just falling straight onto your face or head.
The average age of children presenting to hospital after an e-device crash is just 10 years old. Doctors say it's reached crisis point.
When you put an electronic or artificial motor onto a device and give it to a child who doesn't have the necessary cognitive skills and ability to manage risk, I think that's a flawed concept. I don't have an easy answer for it. So if we don't have an easy answer for people to manage themselves, then that's what the legal system is for.
Queensland could soon have the toughest laws in the country. A parliamentary inquiry has proposed banning children under the age of 16 and requiring all other riders to hold a driver's licence. Already, e-bike riders must be 16 and over in Western Australia, which recently had its own parliamentary inquiry, sparked by a series of fatalities. New South Wales is considering a ban on kids, but hasn't yet settled on the age. All other states and territories have no age restrictions.
We also need to work with each state on the road regulations so that we have consistent and aligned regulations at the import, the sale and the road use.
Peter Burke says e-bikes have a place as a convenient and increasingly cost-effective way to get around, but he warns illegal devices that can reach dangerous speeds are the problem, both to the rider and anyone in their path.
we've got this overpowered product, high speed, operating in the wrong locations by people that don't have training or skills.
The federal government says it's done its bit, moving to implement European standards for e-bikes brought into the country, which stipulate the devices should not exceed speeds of 25 kilometres an hour. It says it's now up to the states to enforce compliance and road rules. For Chloe Whedon, action cannot come soon enough.
Yeah, I don't like to go there and do the what ifs. Just makes things a lot harder, but it's also hard not to do that. Unfortunately, if these laws were in place a lot earlier, I believe Zeke will still be with me today.
Well, it's a rare find with a sweet twist. A variety of cooking apple, once thought to be extinct, has been rediscovered in the New South Wales southern tablelands. It makes Australia one of only 4 countries to home the Reimer apple, but with less than a dozen trees found worldwide, the race is now on to save it.
Having grown up on an orchard, Rudy Stasho knows his apples.
I only know them as Reimers, and I've known them as Reimers since I was about 8 years old.
But he didn't know just how rare these ones might be, until local cider maker Gary Sully noticed them and alerted a network of apple enthusiasts in his native Wales.
So I jumped out of my chair, so delighted.
Dr Ainsley Rice says Reimers were considered extinct until 1995, when his group began finding the odd tree, 6 in Wales, 1 in India and another in the US.
The last time we found one was 2005.
To add a 4th country to that list, they needed proof.
So he wanted to test our Reimers against his Reimers.
So Gary collected DNA. And late last year, the results came back with a perfect match.
I think of all the varieties that we have accredited, it was the one that was far and away the most clear-cut, involved the largest number of people and occurred over the longest period of time.
I did get a little bit emotional.
Gary has now been propagating dozens of seedlings, growing the Reimer beyond its core.
Oh boy, that is so sharp.
Brooke Chandler, ABC News, Majors Creek.
Well, the Matildas are still struggling to come to terms with their heartbreaking 1-0 loss to Japan in last night's Women's Asian Cup final. An enthusiastic crowd greeted them in Sydney today to celebrate their achievements throughout the tournament. But the players are lamenting the trophy that got away.
A healthy crowd of passionate fans did their best to try and erase the Matildas' hurt, but the sting of defeat is still felt deeply.
We're quite upset to not obviously come away with the win of the Asia Cup, but obviously to be here and to see all the fans and to thank them for an amazing tournament. We've made a lot of history with the attendance, and it's something I'm really thankful for, to be part of this group and be supported the way we are.
I feel really bad for them, but they played amazing and they kept fighting right to the end, so that's all we can wish for.
In a game they dominated in front of more than 74,000 fans, the Matildas know this was the trophy that got away.
Probably one of the hardest. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this.
Micah Hamano's astonishing wonder goal was worthy of a final.
And they're off the mark!
The Matildas played easily their best game of the tournament, pushing the world number 6 like no other team had been capable of. Only errant strikes and heroic defence could deny them.
We found a way to win the game, even if it wasn't our best game, and we couldn't really find our own rhythm. But the character of the players, the way they never stop playing and they believe in themselves.
They can't drop their heads. They've got to keep going forward now, because we're at a very, very good point, a really delicate point to go forward at the next stage.
The 16-year wait for a trophy will go on till at least next year, with the Women's World Cup in Brazil and then the LA 2028 Olympics. For now, moving on from the pain is the only option.
The desire's always there. We're always going to try to put our best foot forward.
The first step comes in just a few weeks for a friendly series in Africa. Amanda Shalala, ABC News, Sydney.
To the Women's A-League, and Canberra United has moved above Adelaide on the ladder after a tough loss for the Reds on the road. Bethany Gordon scored early for Canberra, then Sarah Morgan responded to even the score for Adelaide. A costly own goal from Adelaide's young gun, Alona Melag, putting Canberra ahead. Emma Hawkins sealed the win, and a last-minute goal from Adelaide wasn't enough. Canberra winning 3-2. The Waratahs have suffered their third straight defeat in the Super Rugby Pacific competition, going down to the Blues 35-20 at the Sydney Football Stadium. The Waratahs couldn't convert several first-half try-scoring chances, then threw away a 12-point lead in a frustrating night for the home side. The loss pushes the Tars outside the top six for the first time this season. Thousands of people got an early start this morning to watch the hot air balloons take off from the edge of Lake Burley-Griffin, celebrating the last day of this year's Canberra Balloon Spectacular. Lish Faya was up there with the birds.
For 9 days every autumn, this small patch of grass in Canberra grows something pretty extraordinary.
This is one of the best events in the world. It's right over the centre of a capital city. There are very few cities in the world that would allow a balloon event like this to occur. The pilots love it because they get to fly in the city. A bit of noise in the background, balloons are starting to get inflated, you can hear the fans, the excitement's starting to build. It's good fun.
Crowds get in really close to watch it unfold and hopefully float away, high, low, or wherever the wind blows.
I think everybody's so excited and maybe a little bit sad that it's the last day.
For this event to get off the ground each morning, a team of experienced pilots and forecasters assess the weather conditions to make a decision.
We also put up our own small pie ball, a little toy balloon with a light underneath it. We watch where that goes.
This year, the festival balloons flew 6 out of 9 days. Commercial balloons only missed 1 day because while they fly under the same sky, it's not exactly the same rules.
They have a commercial pilot's licence as opposed to a private pilot's licence, a bit like somebody flying a Cessna compared with flying a 737. They also carry transponders so air traffic control can see where each individual balloon is.
And from first light to lift off, it's 100% joy.
All the balloons, and especially love the turtle balloon. The turtle balloon's our favourite one. It's here.
Even with sky-high gas prices, it's an event that always lifts spirits. Lish Faya, ABC News, Canberra.
And so well supported by the public this year. At risk of overload on ballooning images, it does seem fitting to bring you one last shot. We had so many to choose from, but this one from Rachel in Dixon manages to capture most of the fleet set against the giant golden orb behind, and we all look forward to them returning again next year. Well, from sunrise through to this evening, a perfect day in the capital today with a top of 26 degrees. Dry and warm everywhere right across our region. 26 at Maruya, 25 in Goulburn, and a warm 30 degrees, the high in Wagga Wagga. Sydney was a little bit wet and 28, so was Brisbane with 29. The same temperature in Adelaide, only dry there. Mostly clear and 30 in Melbourne today. Ex-tropical cyclone Narelle is by far the most striking cloud mass near our continent. Inland parts of New South Wales have low-level cloud, but it's less visible on this image. We're still seeing a steady flow of onshore breezes crossing the New South Wales coast. Because of that, more storms are possible in Sydney tomorrow, 27 the top. Rain and a bit warmer in Brisbane. Melbourne's looking dry and 25, 30 and sunny in Perth. We should now be past the storms and instability of recent days in southern New South Wales, although there's a very slight chance of an afternoon shower around Goulburn. 27 and partly cloudy in Bateman's Bay. Coomer's expecting 25 degrees. For us here in Canberra, some morning fog is possible, then a partly cloudy but dry Monday with light winds, and we're heading for 27 degrees. Here are your times for sunrise and sunset. And the Bureau's telling us Tuesday should also be sunny and warm, then becoming a bit unsettled through the middle of the week. And that's ABC News this Sunday night from me, Greg Jennett. Thanks for your company. Good night.